Hello everyone, in this video I wanted to go over horizontal support and resistance levels. As always, there are going to be timestamps below in the description or along this video, so you can just skip to wherever you feel is necessary for you to go to. I would also recommend you check out Hyperliquid. That's where I'm starting to really start trading in. No affiliation there in relation to paid sponsorship or anything in that sense. Just really like the software as a DEX. Again, check out Exo Charts and Entropia for all the latest in what I'm really doing, as well as my Twitter. Formerly as X. So yeah, let's begin. Horizontal support and resistance, as usual, I will start from the higher time frames and work my way down. I'll talk you through all the different use cases. For myself, I'm really trading, when I'm trading on like this day by day basis, okay, I'm not really using SR levels from the monthly or weekly too much, and they are much more periodic in the sense that, I'm only using them once price approaches specific levels. So to begin with, what I would say is, if I'm going to be taking my SR levels, the first thing I always want to be seeing is multiple touches. I'll talk you through the difference between like a multiple touch point one and like a naked level completely. But a multiple touch point level is something like this, especially if we're just looking at the monthly, right? This has now got multiple touches. Okay, two. So if we're just looking at these points naked, in that sense, I would then go, this zone as a whole is my resistance. But I always want to refine that down to a really clear level. And in this case, you get a mix of both being like multiple touch point naked level, because what I would then do is go, okay, well, you've got all of this resistance, this is resistance. It's such a big zone, so you can't really just pinpoint that. What I would like to do is then go, where's the highest close? Okay. Where's the highest close that we get in this sense? And it would be up here. So you can see here, right? This wouldn't be the case. This is not the highest close of this zone. This is the highest close. Okay. Multiple touches. And then obviously the first touch into this level is going to be quite a key one. So if you look on the lower time frame, how that panned out, obviously in this case, nothing really happened there. But that is how I'd mark out and refine the level in regards to like a monthly support and resistance. Okay. In this case, multiple touch points again too. And if we're looking at this on the downside, okay, the same thing in reference to just looking for multiple touch points, touch point one, touch point two. Okay, and this is going to be really clean, especially when you're looking at like revisitations, for example. So if we're just looking here, one touch point, two touch points, multiple down here, where especially when once you've broken through this, okay, once you've seen the multiple touch points and you've broken through it, I'm then going to go for the lowest close in this case, which is down here. This is now my SR flip in this case. Now, a lot of people go with the wicks, and you can obviously go with the wicks. For me, I don't see consistent results going with the wick in reference to, being able to find really consistent good levels that I can be taking trades off of and looking for signs of strength upon. So for example, if I'm taking this SR level down to here, and I'll talk you through lower time frames in a minute as well. If I'm looking down here, this isn't replicatable so well if I'm doing this on the lower time frames and across multiple different charts. This isn't the most reliable thing. I prefer to look at the closes. Again, it's really down to preference. As well as that, it gives me a much more conservative approach when looking for SR reclaims, because if I'm looking down here, price, in this case obviously in this case, it just did this, move into it and then completely continued higher, but it could have just, seen acceptance above, not above that level, and then continued down. So I like to be a bit more conservative in my approach to this and say, look, if the highest, or in this case, the lowest close is reclaimed in this case, then, look, that's an SR flip to the upside, and you can be looking for much further resistance. So, I generally want to see multiple touch points. So if we just bring this down to like the weekly, daily, or I'll bring this down to the daily, okay? Because you can see very clearly, or even we'll see how it's like on the weekly. I mean, this on its own has multiple, okay, touch points. Like this whole area has just got like multiple different touch points. So that when we're approaching this again, right, it's kind of clear resistance in this case. Again, I will talk you through how I use it on like the actual 15-minute and stuff, because it's going to be really important. Again, I would then go, okay, where's the highest close? So it's not going to be this, it's going to be this up here. I'm going to use this as my close. This is the highest close that we saw at the time, and that is the resistance. So if we then look on like the 4 hour and stuff, you can see any sort of real move into these levels acts as that resistance. Okay, so again, using that highest lowest close method, at least for me, is how I like to approach things. And again, on the lower ones, you can see support here, again down here, again down here, again down here, multiple touch points of this again, and you're going to be adjusting this as obviously time goes upon it. But right now I'd mark this down as like, that's the key support. I mean, that's the lowest close at that point. But obviously we didn't touch this, and we'll talk to this now. But let's just talk about this now, where you've got a resistance level in this case, where you have the highest close. We've identified that, you've seen resistance. You've broken through it really clean. It's what I really like to see. I want to highlight this here. When you get like these really clean breaks through that resistance, this eventually at some point, Bitcoin is likely to probably revisit down towards this zone. This is the level I'm going to be interested in for like a long, and that doesn't mean, it's more of a zone, obviously, but this is the level of interest for me. The highest close on the weekly down here. Obviously, if you want to, you can look at the daily as well and apply the exact same theory. And that would be around all the way 73,000. So it's around that 73 to 70. It's a big zone, but you can look at it on a weekly, daily in that case, down there to apply. So yeah, you want to generally see, and a really nice setup I like to see, especially when you look at this on the weekly, for example, is like, this is a really nice move, okay? Is where you've seen your multiple touches of this level already, 1, 2, multiple touches. You've then seen a really clean break of this level. And then the retest of this for the highest close in this case is where I'd then be looking to bid, okay, as a really, really simple level. And again, the really powerful thing about SR levels, at least from my experience, is not so much using it as like I'm going to look to long at this level, but more so it's a sign of weakness if we close below this, because I might have other interesting levels, that come into play, I don't know, within this zone here, for example, and say to myself, this is all irrelevant if we start losing this level, all my bullish bias is lost at that case. Now, if we look on like a more like an hourly approach, okay, this is the approach I was taking at least this week as well on Bitcoin, and yeah, really, really powerful. And when everyone's bearish or bullish, I'm really taking this into my own hands and just ignoring the noise and playing this level by level. Because what I was identifying, especially on like the more lower time frames, so I'm going to timestamp this is the lower time frame section, so come here if you want this. But yes, if price, for example, was staircasing up, it went all the way to the highs, saw a bit of a dump, and now I've identified that we've seen this dump, right? I want to talk you through this because this is where I was really interested. We saw this dump to the downside. It was like a 5% move down. I mean, I shorted around here, but I'm thinking to myself, is this, this, everyone's thinking at this time, is this bounce strong? Is it strong? We're moving up really quickly here. I remember this. And I'm saying to myself, have we reclaimed any significant SR levels? And again, I'm on like the hourly here. So this is what I'm actually using. And I'm then going, okay, the same process, multiple touch points of support here, multiple touch points, a really clean break through it. This whole zone is like just a clean break through this support. And, and then we haven't reclaimed any of that. So then if I just then go, where's the lowest close? It was here. Very, really clear to myself that this was like, like I said, you can use wicks, whatever, but I this is how I do it. This move up is really, really insignificant, in my opinion, until it reclaimed this 105.8. Nothing had happened yet. All it had done was, see a move up and it was like parrying around here, did nothing. And then obviously you got the FOMC news or whatever it was at the time, and it was like, that's why we moved down. But in reality, there was no sign of strength before that, at least in my eyes, through the technical analysis. I then approached it again with the same approach after we saw this again. Really clean support level here in reference to this, right? 2 touches here, and then we a really clean break through it. If I turn this on, it might make it easier for you all to understand. Really clean break through it all, and then we have the lowest close in this case again. And again, we see this rally. There's no sign of strength. Again, we haven't really reclaimed anything. We're just, in the middle of this massive imbalance in price, which we haven't reclaimed any sort of significant structure. So I'm remaining, patient there. And again here, if we're talking about SR levels, something to note. Really key support. Again, another wick into this. This is important. When you see a wick like this, it's showing like people are trying to step in, and then you see this massive thrust through the level. So I then go, okay, again, the same thing. And this is my approach right now, as we're speaking. We haven't reclaimed anything, and I want to see closes above to, as in essence, towards like a reclaim to see a further move upwards. But there's no point, and I'm really showing this because the power of SR more so for me comes in the essence of identifying strength from weakness in a move rather than like trying to bid or sell directly at that level as a whole. Yes, you can, but for me, I'm using other levels to like bid or sell, a level or whatever it is I'm doing, rather than just longing or shorting that if we get to here. Because if I have a level, for example, which is here, I'm interested in shorting that, not because this is like at resistance, but just because we haven't seen any sort of sign of strength, and it still plays into my mind that I'm playing with the trend in this case towards the downside. The same thing applies to the upside, and this is how I like to use these SR levels. Again, looking at the highest, the lowest close in that essence, and then identifying, a key move or drop below it to identify weakness in this case. So yeah, the revisit, like I said, if we're talking about like the daily or weekly or monthly, like I said, something I like to look for, multiple touches, eventually the first move back into it, okay, would offer us decent support for, a bid. But again, I wouldn't be directly longing there. I would be looking for levels around or above this. And if this level is lost, then I'm saying this is actually a sign of weakness rather than anything else. Same here. If we're looking, let's look on the daily and do another example. Okay. So I would say something like this. Multiple touch points here, 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 here. I would go the highest is up here. Okay. You eventually lost this, you found support, lost this. I'm talking just for reference here. And the hardest thing about this is that I don't like to be so subjective. I kind of want to be really clear about this. The only subjective thing about this is defining the support and resistance where prices struggle to break through a level or not. So like something like this would have been really good, where you've got resistance, 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 and then you have this clear, again, a perfect SR level for me is something that has a clear thrust through it almost. That where you break through it really cleanly. Again, in this case, it bounces off, and then it just breaks straight back down through it. And then you obviously have another thing up here. But these are what you're going to be looking for. I want to see multiple tests and then a thrust through level to define that it's a clean break before eventually at some point coming back to revisit that zone as a whole more than anything else. But these provide us like key SR in reference to signs of weakness. I really want to put emphasis on that because it can give you a heads up over anything else. Again, here, multiple touches. Again, it was really, really small range, this one. But I would still mark this out. Okay, and this is how you can start looking for, okay, this is not too significant. There's not too many touch points here. But this is how I'd look at it, okay? In reference to SR. Again, refine them through using the closes, in my opinion, over the wicks, okay? And yeah, you can do that. I mean, one other thing I would note is that you can have like these naked weekly points in those. For example, if I'm looking for support to the downside, right? How am I going to apply pressure? I mean, obviously, I'm looking at volume-based support. Go watch all my previous videos for that. But if I'm looking at just basic SR, I would be paying attention to this level here. And then I'd start refining from there downwards. So I then go, look, what's the daily doing? Where is anything on the daily that I could be interested in that's a bit better? And I would go, okay, I'd probably prefer this. And now all of a sudden we've got a daily, a thrust through that. And this now we've got this zone as a whole here, which offers us good support, at least in the meantime. But for me, I don't like to bid horizontal SR levels. I really want to make that clear. I'm using it as like if we bypass this zone, then my whole nature of looking for a bid at all before it is off. I would like to buy probably somewhere around here, as offer as a decent long before price gets towards here. I mean, I could offer here, but I could look for a bid here, but I wouldn't want to see this zone loss. And if it is, it's a key sign of weakness that I just, it would invalidate my whole idea. So again, use this on the 15 minute, use it on the 30 minute, whatever time frame you're on. Identify the key SR levels in reference to multiple touch points. Be objective in your thinking. That's all I really want to say about this. Be objective in your thinking rather than just thinking, this because of this. Really focus on, have we really seen any sign of strength here? Like I said in relation to, all of this. Nothing. Again, key break, nothing. Again, key break. We haven't really seen any sort of significant reclaim of anything if we're looking at it in this case, okay? And then obviously you can break it down again, subdivide it again. But, keep it to the 30 minute plus, in my opinion, and then use the 15 minute for identifying levels, reactions, etc. That's how I do my things. But I'll do a whole nother video on that. Maybe I've done a bit of waffling here, but I really want to break that down for you all. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Thank you.